Joe Rogan. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard of him. You may love him, you may hate him, you may not care. On today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 things that we can learn from UFC commentator, comedian, host of the world's biggest podcast, and health and fitness nut, Joe Rogan. And we'll see what we can learn from Joe that can help catapult our health and our life to the next level. Okay, let's go. Welcome back to the channel where we empower families to create awesome health so you can naturally access purpose, presence, and performance for a lifetime. Recently, there was a movie that came out. It was like a follow-up to the Sex and the City movies from years ago. And all of a sudden, so they were like now clearly a lot older than they were. And one of the things that was really interesting, I remember seeing a parallel. Somebody had put up a picture of the cast from Sex and the City at the age of 50, and the people from the cast of the Golden Girls, if you remember that show on TV, Golden Girls, the women from Golden Girls and the women from Sex and the City are essentially the same age in those pictures. Now, when you look at those pictures, they look very, very different. And so an interesting thing that came up for me when I saw this is that our ideas about health, our ideas about longevity, our ideas about our own lives need to shift, because what used to happen, or what we used to think is that, and oftentimes we still think that sometimes, is that once I get older, I get sick more often, I'm in more pain, I have more health problems, and my life starts to degrade. Now, that is something that we often think about, but it's not actually necessarily true. And we start to see people today who are older and older and older who are actually looking younger and younger and younger. You know, they say that now 40 is the new 20. And so why is that? And one of the things that I want to go over with you is that success leaves clues. And Joe Rogan is a great example of that. And so there's a few things that I think we can really learn from his example, because he's a guy in his mid-50s who's in the best shape of his life, who looks absolutely fantastic, he's ripped, and he also has some practices that allow him to get there. So let's get into it. Number 1 is health practices. Something that I find really interesting listening to Joe Rogan and through his podcast. I'm a big fan of his podcast, and a lot of the guests that he has on, he's always talking about how his health, the things that he does, his workouts, his nutrition, they're daily non-negotiables. I mean, he will not go more than a couple of days, more than a few days without working out. He will not go more than a few days without eating really well. Those things are non-negotiables. And those are things that are really interesting when it comes to our own health, is that the things that we make non-negotiables, the standard that we set for our health, is the level of health that we will achieve. I mean, we often think that, you know, we want to rise to this level of health that we want and we desire, yet we'll always fall back to the level of health of our training, of our habits. So if I eat well, if I'm taking care of my foundational 4, like we talked about before in other videos, where fuel, fitness, focus, and frame, taking care of those foundational 4 as a non-negotiable, these are the things that I do for my health. No matter what, you can expect to have a level of health that is equal to that. Another great example from Joe Rogan is that he is willing to do new things. I mean, what's really cool is that he's often doing all these different challenges. There was like the month of January where he was only eating meat and fruit. There was a challenge with his friends, Sober October, where they don't drink any alcohol or do any drugs for the month of October, and they have like a fitness challenge that they go through. And all of these things that he's willing to do something new. If you want to get to a new level of health, you have to be willing to let go of the things that you were doing that got you to where you are today. Right? The things that got you to where you are today got you to where you are today. And if you want to go somewhere else, if you want something different, then your habits are necessarily going to have to be different as well. A third thing we can learn from Joe Rogan is that he talks incessantly about it. He talks about it all the time, which is absolutely great. The other thing that he does, not only does he talk about it, and by talking about it, we actually are learning ourselves. We're talking ourselves into things. The other thing he does is engages people. He engages his guests, he engages his friends, he engages his family, he engages essentially everybody and anybody that's within his sphere to be able to be healthy. And when he sees something, if he sees somebody that's overweight, if he sees somebody that's in ill health, he reaches out to them. He engages them to help them be better people. And because he understands the connection between his physical health and his greater enjoyment of life with his friends, he wants the same thing for everybody. And the biggest lesson that I've learned from Joe Rogan when it comes to taking care of my own health is to be committed to the long game. You know, this is somebody who's in his mid-50s right now and he's he's probably in the best shape of his life. He said, like, he's in the best shape of his life. He feels absolutely great. And it's not a vanity thing. It's not about looking perfect or looking absolutely great in a bathing suit or whatever that is. It's about really, weaponizing your body to be able to do and be able to have the experiences that you want, to be able to do the things that you want to do, to be able to play with your kids, to be able to go on a hike, to be able to go and whatever it is, get through a difficult situation, get through a great situation. All of those things are available to us when we think of our health as the long game. How will I act when I am 60, 70, 80 years old? How can I have the best quality of life when I'm that age? And the answer is, you start with right now. The things that you do today, the things that you do every day will get you to the health, the life, the lifestyle that you want. So again, success leaves clues. Now, who are the people that inspire you? Who are the people around you that you know, like, oh wow, like I could learn a thing or two from them? Who are the healthiest people that you know? Find out what they're doing. Find a health professional that understands where you want to go and can help you create an action plan to get you there. So have a look at the next video. I want to empower you with mindsets and the skill sets to create awesome health so you can naturally access better presence, greater purpose, and top performance for a lifetime. See you in the next video.